Welcome to part 2 of our analysis now. So, up until now, we spoke about the introduction to our company. We did an introduction to Daistruk. We learned about what the company's base is like, where the company functions. We'll now, and we started then to do some industry background, which is part of the pre-scene. So in the pre-scene, they've given us some background of this industry, which is relevant for Daistruk and which is relevant for you to know as well. That is why we are doing a pre-scene detailed analysis over here. So firstly, I want you to be comfortable with part 1. Go through part 1 again if you want. Carefully invest your time in the industry analysis in part 1. Invest your time in that. Once you are comfortable with that, now begin with part 2. There has to be no rush in this process because the time invested here will be really valuable for us, will be really enriching and value adding for us. So let's start now. We are on to road transport. Now, road vehicles account for most of the expenditure. We've learnt in our industry analysis as well that majority of the money is spent on road transport because it's very popular. It's popular for the last mile delivery, which means the final delivery to the customer. Plus, it's popular for logistic movement overall as well. It's the most popular mode of transport. So from this diagram, we can see the road is the most popular. Second comes sea, third comes rail, third comes air, and fourth comes rail. Now what we know from our industry analysis is road has the largest segment, yes, but the fastest growing segment is air transport. We know this from our industry analysis. So let's keep this in mind, and when we go deeper into the pre-scene, starting to speak about our company, starting to speak about my company, Daistruk, we'll see, do we only take care of road transport or sea transport or rail transport or air transport as well? We'll have that connection because I've mentioned this information to you and because you've viewed my industry analysis. So fastest growing segment over here is the air transport, but the largest is road. Now, road transport takes a variety of different forms. You can have cars and vans, firstly. So cars and vans can be an efficient means of carrying small loads, particularly when making multiple deliveries over the last mile, which means from one warehouse you have to give 5-10 deliveries and then come back. That's to the customer and then come back. That's called last mile. Drivers do not need to have special licenses, and so recruitment and retention is simple because they're driving cars and vans, so no real change. Some larger vans can accommodate a pallet and can be loaded and unloaded by a forklift as well. So vans have that possibility as well. The forklift can from the warehouse pick up the pallet and put it inside a van. And it's also very simple, no specific licenses or anything needed, so it's easier process. Second, you have rigid trucks. Now, rigid trucks consist of a chassis with a cab for the driver and a load compartment. Example has been put over here for you. At the front, the driver drives, and behind there's all the place for storage. Manufacturers usually supply these vehicles without a load compartment, which means they'll just give the body where the driver drives and the empty chassis. Then on top of it, you can add the space that best meets your requirement. For example, you can have one full box like you see in the image. For example, you can have a refrigerated compartment as well. For example, you can have a compartment with different sub compartments inside. It depends on what the buyer wants, what the logistic company wants, because the logistic company will be buying these trucks, right? And then will be using them for their transport. So it depends on the buyer's needs. For example, the load compartment could have flexible curtain sides that can be opened to make it easier to load and unload, or they can be refrigerated depending on what we want. Rigid trucks are available in a variety of different sizes. Roundlandian law, the law in our country where Daistruk operates, permits trucks of up to 7.5 tons to be driven by holders of standard driving licenses. Larger trucks require a heavy goods vehicle license. Now, this is a clear indication that if these rules, regulations are not followed, there is regulatory risk on your company. There can be lots of different risks which can arise for your company if these rules and regulations are not followed. So, risk is an important concept and important topic from our P3 syllabus, and that is why I'm mentioning different risks when I go through the pre-scene. 18-ton trucks are a popular size because they are well suited to carrying pallets of goods. So up to 7.5 you don't need any specific license, but 18-ton trucks are the most popular ones. Next, we have articulated trucks. So rigid trucks, articulated trucks, now they're different. Articulated trucks consist of a tractor unit and a trailer. So separate trailer is attached to the tractor unit. That's called an articulated truck. Image is in front of you. You'll see the tractor unit ahead, and behind the trailer is attached. The trailer can be removed and put another trailer. So the trailer carries the load. Tractors and trailers are designed to be interchangeable. So the trailer can be changed once it's delivered. The tractor can be changed and a different trailer can be attached to it. To the extent that a trailer can be left at a destination for loading and the tractor can be hitched to another trailer for the return journey. So this is interchangeable, and that is why articulated trucks are also popular. Now trailers come in a variety of different configurations, allowing buyers to specify the manner in which they will be loaded and unloaded, as well as the ability to specify trailers that are suited to different types of cargo. Different configurations, different cargo, whatever you need. Drivers must have heavy goods vehicle licenses before they can drive an articulated truck. Some tractor units come equipped with a sleeping compartment as well, which enables the driver to park overnight and sleep, which allows a longer distance to be covered. Now, all of these, let's say road transport that we spoke about, all of that road transport, vans or rigid trucks or articulated trucks, whatever we spoke about, these are important assets for a logistic company, right? So buying and owning the correct mix of vehicles, the correct type of trucks, the correct mix of trucks will be very important for any logistics business. The buying decision will be key, as we will have to consider loans or outright payment options. So when we buy, there will have to be a decision between loans, being a loan taken, or we're paying upfront. Now if a loan is considered, then interest rate risk comes into the picture. What if interest rates go up, interest rates go down? So the sources of raising finance can also be a situation that is tested here. So debt finance, equity finance, different types of debt finance, different types of equity finance, how this will affect the company's overall structure. This is part of your F3 syllabus and a very important topic and concept which we must be aware of. After this, we have rail transport. Now, rail transport offers a number of advantages over road. Rail transport is generally more sustainable than road transport with lower emissions. So it has lower environmental effect. One advantage. Second, using rail reduces congestion on the roads. So less congestion on the roads, meaning less traffic for different consumer vehicles, less harm on the environment. Third, rail can be more reliable in terms of on-time delivery, which can be beneficial when scheduling the movement of goods. So rail has advantages over your road transport. And rail transportation is often cheaper as well, particularly for the carriage of materials in bulk. Sorry, I've just scrolled down, scrolling back up. So rail transport is often cheaper as well, particularly for the carriage of materials in bulk. Again, sustainability concept is brought up over here. Now, how is our company using rail transport? This will be important to see. Once used, how are we reporting it? So when we are doing something for the environment, when we are being sustainable, how are we reporting it? Are we using GRI? Are we using the IR framework for reporting in our financial statements? Sorry. This is in your sustainability firstly is in your E3, P3 syllabus, and GRI, IR framework is in your P3 syllabus, which you must have the conceptual knowledge of. Please remember that you do not need to replicate any direct information from GRI, direct information from IR. You will need to know what it is, how it helps, what it's useful for. That knowledge will be important from our syllabus areas, and that is why I'm pointing it out to you. So rail transport has advantage over our road transport in terms of sustainability and in terms of being cheaper as well. Rail can be used to carry a range of products. Wagons come in a variety of different configurations, including open wagons for raw materials such as iron ore, tankers for liquids, and wagons adapted for special loads such as cars and vans. Everything can be transported via rail. You can have your open wagons, you can have your tankers, you can have specialized wagons. The usefulness of rail depends largely on the location of facilities that are convenient for loading and unloading at either end of a load's journey. So usefulness depends on the location. Roundland has an extensive network of railway lines that are used for passengers and freight, which means in Roundland, the rail transport can be something that's very efficient and good for my business because it has an extensive network of railway lines. All of the country's seaports have rail connections to their freight docks, and so it is possible to offload ships directly onto trains. So ship transport, sea transport, and rail transport can be something which can go hand in hand because of the availability and the nature of Roundland. So it can be used to our advantage because Daistruk is situated in Roundland. So the railway lines are used by several rail operators, enabling logistic companies to offer both rail, freight, and road for the transportation of goods. So when we go to our company, we'll see is our company using rail transport efficiently, effectively. If yes, this also opens up the opportunity to expand into Asia Pacific or any other country which has good rail connections and which is a growing market because of our familiarity in scheduling rail transport, using rail transport. That's our familiarity, right? So can we use this comparative advantage to expand as well in countries that have good rail connectivity? Something to keep in mind in terms of an expansion thought. That is why I've brought it up to you. Next, we have seaports. They already know that railways and seaways can be used together because of their locations in Roundland. They've already told us that. Let's read about sea transport. Now, it may be necessary to use sea freight simply because there are no alternatives when goods are to be transported to or from a distant location. Sometimes you might have to use your sea transport because there's no alternative available. For example, Roundland imports large quantities of grain from Northland, which is on the far side of the Western Ocean. The grain is transported to ports in Roundland on bulk carriers. The grain is then transported by road or by rail to factories where bread is made or other products are made. So because Northland is on the other side of the Western Ocean, the sea transport is used to bring this material or bring these goods to Roundland because there is no other option available. Bulk carriers have open loads that can carry large quantities of goods such as grain, ore, or coal. Each type of load requires specialist equipment to allow it to be loaded or unloaded. Bulk goods are often loaded into open-topped railway wagons at the dockside. So from the from your sea transport, it's transferred to your railway open wagons at the dockside. So both are going hand in hand. So over here, they are speaking about specialist equipment and large ships. It is evident that this type of transport will not be cheap. But because of the no alternatives problem, sea transport is often used. It will be capital intensive. Let's keep this in mind from now itself, and let's keep this very prominently in our mind. Not just, sea transport is going to be something that is going to be capital intensive. All forms of transport are, but sea transport will also be in that same category, a little bit ahead, because of all the logistics that are involved in setting up sea transport, and owning all the equipment, owning the actual ship is not going to be cheap. Liquids such as oil are carried on tanker ships. Liquids can be pumped from tankers into storage tanks by the dockside. Those liquids can then be pumped to smaller ships or into tankers towed by trucks or railway locomotives for onward transportation. So it's very natural that if you're using sea transport, you will have to use a connector transport as well. For example, railway to transport that oil further to the customer. For example, road transport or road tankers to transport that oil to a factory that converts it into petroleum, and so on and so forth. So sea transport will have to have a link with rail transport, with road transport for it to work. So it's a dependent form of transport. Container ships carry goods in shipping containers, which allow for rapid loading and unloading. Many ports have container terminals that are equipped with cranes designed to lift containers. You see the image here? So simple, and you can see the cranes. They are lifting up the containers and putting them onto the seaport. Once unloaded, containers can be stacked ready to reload onto another ship or onto a truck, wherever you need to put them. Containers can also be loaded onto trucks or trains. Containers are standard sizes, which makes them easy to manage. Now, if you have containers, they'll be of standard sizes. So it's easy to manage them, and it's easy to standardize your process. Shipping containers can also be brought to ports on railway wagons and trucks, making them a flexible means of transporting goods from one place to another or for export purposes. Now, articulated trucks can be carried on cars or ferries, which can allow for flexibility in making sea crosses. Now, articulated trucks themselves, not your rigid trucks, but articulated trucks can be carried on car ferries, which allow flexibility in making sea crossings. You load them onto a ferry, and you can cross seas with that truck itself. So there are 6 major ferry ports on Roundland's south and east coasts, and all are used by trucks to carry freight between Roundland and foreign destinations. So 6 major ferry ports. Roundland is a large island and has no road or rail links to other countries. So if you want to transport certain goods from other countries to Roundland, you only have 2 options: fly them or send them via sea, your sea route. So there are only 2 major links if you are looking at foreign destinations, or if you want to import or export anything to foreign destinations. So your sea transport, your air transport will be very important. So this is a clear indication that sea transport, air transport will be a big opportunity that our company can look to capitalize on, since Roundland is an island nation. Most 3PL logistic providers can manage the documentation associated with imports and exports by sea. In addition to making the necessary agreements to charter ships or to organize the carriage of shipping containers by sea. So remember, the documentation will have to be done by the 3PL logistics provider, by us, by Daistruk in this situation. So a strong documentation department or a agreement department or a legal department will be needed within the company to make sure all of this is in good order. because these are goods of high value. If anything goes wrong, the companies will become liable. So also, chance of vertical integration over here. When I go to the pre-scene, I want to see, do I own my own ships or am I chartering ships? Also, do I own my own aircraft or trucks or am I chartering them? If I'm not owning them, then maybe is this a chance of being completely vertically integrated, where I own my trucks, so I decide when they go, where they go. I own my own ships, so again I make those decisions. I have my own department to do the documentation as well. So eventually I'm controlling everything. That's called being a vertically integrated organization. If I'm completely vertically integrated, with some parts being outsourced, which are non-value adding activities or non-critical activities for my organization, that's okay. But let's pause and think over here. What are the synergies of being a vertically integrated company? You have better control, you can manage your costs better, you know the entire process, so you can control it better. What are the drawbacks? Obviously, owning all of this is not cheap. Maintaining all of this is not cheap. Then you don't have flexibility because you are owning everything. So think about this. This is in your F3 syllabus, and that is why I have brought it up to you as well. Next, I'm going to air transport. Now, freight can be carried by air, either on dedicated cargo aircraft or in holds of passenger aircraft alongside luggage as well. So air freight is generally suited to high value goods that are small enough to be carried economically. It may also be necessary to consider air freight for the transportation of goods that are either urgent or that are perishable. So what's the major difference between your sea transport and air transport? Air transport is obviously more expensive. Plus, it cannot facilitate the movement of any size of goods. It's generally used for urgent, perishable goods because of the value and the price of air transport. Now, for example, fresh fruit and vegetables account for 10% of the weight of air transport arriving in Roundland. Some varieties must be imported from countries with warmer climates and must be flown rather than shipped because they are unsuitable for freezing and would not remain edible for the duration of a sea voyage. So major reason of using air transport is because of perishability. Cargo aircraft are considered to carry only freight. They can accommodate large items that are required urgently and so cannot be transported by overland or by ship or large volumes of pallets, such as high value electronics that must be transported quickly and securely. So again, another opportunity for vertical integration. Can I have my own cargo aircraft that look to deal with all of this? Because it is a aspect that is growing. It is an industry that is fast growing, a segment that is fast growing. It is possible to charter a cargo aircraft for a single urgent load or for regular deliveries of an item that requires the speed or security of air freight. It is also possible to book consignments of freight onto the cargo aircraft operated by major courier companies. So if you don't want to own your own aircrafts, if you don't have enough demand for this particular service, then you can look to charter aircrafts, or you can look to book some, some part of cargo aircraft which are operated by major courier companies. Those companies have regular flights between major transport hubs, so it's efficient for them. Most air freight is carried in the holds of passenger aircraft, which means it's a passenger aircraft, the place where your baggage is stored, same place some of the freight is also stored because of that extra space. It generates income for the airlines, plus it's cheaper for the air freight to be carried that way if it's not a large or a specific load. Airlines do not require all their hold space for passenger luggage and can generate significant additional revenue by carrying cargo. Goods must fit into the standard pallets. used for air freight and clear the door to aircraft to hold inside the aircraft. The goods size must be standard. All large airports are equipped to handle freight. It is possible to transfer freight between aircraft on connecting flights when there is no direct flight available. So you pick that pallet up, as you can see in the image, put it in a flight, you can remove it again, put it in another flight if the need be. It can be complicated to manage air freight. Many 3L providers work with third-party specialists to deal with client needs. So this is a very technical process. A third-party logistics provider like us will work with a third-party specialist, also known as subcontracting, which we spoke about in the industry analysis. This is the trend as well. So 3L providers are working with third-party specialists or subcontracting the management of air freight because it's a very technical process. So getting the subcontracts right with quality and safety is very important for our business. The contracts and management will have to be controlled carefully. The concept of supply chain management can be kept in mind here. You know how the supply chain is working. First it's going from manufacturer to you, then you to somebody else, then somebody else to again your own warehouse maybe, then going to the final customer because you are taking care of everything. So the process of supply chain management will have to be kept in mind along with the principles of quality management. Not production, it's a service organization. So how quality is built into our culture, is built into our entire system is what we'll try to figure out and see when we start speaking about Daistruk. But this is something which is important from now itself and it's part of your E3 syllabus. So we are pointing it out for you. We also have intermodal transport. Now, intermodal transport involves the use of two or more modes in a single journey. This is the most popular way generally because again, you have to bring something from the sea to Roundland and then use a rail or a truck to transport it further. That becomes intermodal because more than one mode of transport was used. So for example, a shipping container might arrive at a Roundlandian port by sea, be offloaded onto a railway wagon that carries it to a terminal at which it is loaded onto an articulated truck for delivery to its final destination. Different modes involved, so it's called intermodal. Intermodal transport frequently involves freight that is being carried in shipping containers because as I said, if you were using sea transport, you will need other connections. These can be stacked on the decks of container ships or loaded onto wagons. So shipping containers are easier to carry. You'll see image over here. The containers can also be stacked on land for storage purposes, enabling goods to be stored without the need for any warehouse space to protect them. So technical knowledge will be key for our industry along with the zest to always innovate and make it easier for end users. So how are we providing these services to make this process easier for my customers, for my clients, where I'm giving them a better service, where I'm giving them a better process of managing their logistics. I will have to have the technical knowledge of how intermodal transport works efficiently. I will have to have the knowledge of how the entire sea transport, road transport, rail transport can be integrated and work together. So the employees of my organization will be very important to ensure that we are delivering a competitive advantage to that business by them hiring us as their third-party logistics provider. So technical knowledge along with industry background, along with external market analysis from your E3 syllabus is important in this industry. Shipping containers are standardized in the terms of their size and their fittings, so it's easier to put them on a ship, train or truck. Those same fittings are also compatible with the hoists used for loading and unloading, those cranes used for loading and unloading these shipping containers. Containers can be purchased with refrigeration, with air conditioning. It all depends on the type of good you are transporting. Intermodal transportation can offer rapid and efficient movement of goods in comparison to a single mode of transport. For example, it may be cheaper to use an articulated truck to transport manufactured goods from a factory to the nearest rail terminal, and then the final journey be completed by freight train rather than making the entire journey by road, because road can also lead to delays, can also take a longer time. So when you combine two modes of transport, it can sometimes be more efficient for your business. So again, managing all of this, understanding all of this happens if your business has experience, if your business employees have experience, have market analysis, ideas. Now this intermodal transport can be made more efficient by using inland ports. These are basically rail terminals that are not served by a seaport. They are usually located close to both main railway lines and motorways so that they can act as distribution centers, offering flexibility in the collection and onward movement of goods. They also have storage facilities to enable goods to be offloaded and held here until they are needed. So inland ports are not served by a seaport, but they'll have maybe like a rail connection. So from one place to here, to your inland port, there is a rail connection. Everything is, you get it down from your rail transport, put it onto your road transport, and from there the road transport carries it wherever it needs to go. So inland ports are also being developed and generated because they help the distribution, facilitation of goods. So understanding when, where, how to compete will be an important decision for our company. Do I want to compete using inland ports, or do I want to compete using seaports? What kind of intermodal transport of services am I offering? So when deciding on expansion strategies, how you want to compete, where you want to compete, what your business you want it to be, are facts that you need to keep in mind. And when I'm talking about expansion, the Ansov's matrix is the best possible model that you can use here, and this is in your E3 syllabus, is an exam favorite area. It's something that often comes up in the exam, so it's something that you can revise when you are thinking about expansion or growth strategies for our business. Now, it is often cheaper to take goods arriving by ship to an inland port for storage or distribution. Seaports usually have good rail links, but it can be expensive if you want to store at a seaport. So from the seaport, bring it to an inland port and store it over there. That's what they're suggesting. Similarly, goods can be offloaded to an inland port, and from there by rail, you take them to a seaport. So that inland port becomes a mode, becomes a connection where you can store till you want to take it to the seaport, where you store it for another 1-2 days, and then it goes onto the ship and goes away, rather than storing it at a seaport for 30 days, which can turn out to be expensive. So inland ports can be used for transporting goods within the country. They can make it cost effective to transfer goods from road to rail, even if the railway journey is short, because that inland port has very good connections. Now, when I'm speaking about any mode of transport, we will always need to keep in mind that there are going to be rules, regulations set aside by the government around this. This further empathizes the need, and further you just need to focus on developing and maintaining your stakeholder relationships. Government is an important stakeholder in this industry because you will also be dealing with government. There's a chance that you could be dealing with government agencies, where you are the logistics provider for government agencies, or you are working with government agencies, or even if not, that is not the case, there is a chance that there are strong regulations in place, like we read about, specific licenses or insurances that you have, which need to be followed. So the government becomes an important stakeholder. Stakeholder management, relationship management becomes important in this industry, which is part of your E3 syllabus. You can note that there is a repeated mention of governments and regulators here throughout the pre-scene so far. They will be powerful stakeholders in the Mendelow's matrix here, stakeholder management. There can also be a possible situation in the exam where you are dealing with a government representative and the ethics can be brought into this discussion. Is it ethical to deal with the government agent in this way? For example, whatever the scenario may be. Is it ethical for us to accept this government contract because of the scenario that they have created? So your CIMA code of ethics becomes an important topic of discussion, and it is a top issue which often comes up in the exam. Now we are seeing the far-reaching market opportunities, alternatives that the logistic market has access to. So many different modes, so many different connections, so many different possibilities. So it is a big market and a big industry. Focusing on the right areas and using data will be a key competency. As we go deeper into the pre-scene, we are going to speak about data opportunities, how data can be used by a business. But your topic of big data comes into the picture here. We already know that this is a huge market worldwide, and it's also a big market in Roundland, the logistics industry. This is also an indication that other markets around the world have lucrative opportunities for expansion. We have learned this from our industry analysis, which further tells me that not only Roundland, for our company to grow, maybe expansion can be looked at, where we spoke about the Ansof's matrix already. So this page I have used to give you ideas and links to our E3, P3 and F3 syllabus, and a top issue of ethics was also identified. Finally, after all of this marathon detailing and all of this detailing up until now, we have come up to our company's explanation. We have come up to our company, which is Daistruk. Now, up until now, all background information was given, no specific information. Now, very specific Daistruk information is coming to the fore, so let's pay attention. Daistruk was established in 1958 as a transport company to move building materials for construction of a large steelworks that has been built in its hometown. So the entire culture behind creating this company was that it was a transport company to move building materials mainly. Now we have already been in the market for 65 years. 1958 the company was established in Roundland itself. So in 65 years, isn't it natural that you have become a household name in Roundland? You have become a name that has garnered some type of goodwill, some type of customer care or customer identification with your company, because you've been in the market for such a long time. So which means we may have garnered goodwill or resistance ability, that we have been able to thrive and grow in these 65 years because Daistruk has become a large company. So every market goes through stages of booms and recessions in 65 years. And if we have survived the same, it says a lot about my company, that I have innovated, I've done something new, so that I have been in business for such a long time. Have you seen any market or any business that has been in the market for such a long time and is continuously failing, continuously showing losses for 65 years? I don't think it's possible. Which means you have done something right, which means customers are liking your service, manufacturers are using your logistics service. And since we are been in the market for such a long time, we are bound to have good reputation. With reputation comes reputation risk as well. All those rules, regulations that we spoke about, or anything that we do which showcases the company in bad light, your reputation risk comes into the picture. And everything related to risks is in your P3 syllabus. The company grew rapidly, expanding its client base and buying additional vehicles and employing more drivers. So very clear indication of the company's growth. We are buying vehicles, employing drivers. By 1974, it was transporting loads by road across the whole of Roundland. So whole of Roundland is what we started to cater to from 1974 itself. In 1978, we were listed on the stock exchange. So it became a large enough company to list on the stock exchange. Founded in 1958, in 20 years became a large enough company to be listed on the stock exchange. And we've already spoken about this quoted company in the first page of the pre-scene. So since we are a listed company, questions can easily come up about raising capital, raising finance, raising equity finance, raising debt finance. So decision making on weighted average cost of capital, decision making on how we want to fund an acquisition, and everything along the lines of funding where we speak about debt, equity, weighted average cost of capital becomes important here. This is straight F3 syllabus relevance, and that is why I have brought it up for you. The company now employs 22,000 people, including 7,000 drivers. So large company, not a small one. 22,000 people and 7,000 drivers. Daistruk is now one of the largest 3PL providers in Roundland. So in Roundland, in so many years, we become a household name. We know that. And we are one of the largest providers as well. Now it is very evident that we are a large company who has a culture of looking at growth avenues and capturing the same. This is important to note about our company's values, that we are always looking to grow. We are a large company because that's what we've done in the past, right? It provides intermodal logistics management services to many large organizations. So we provide intermodal logistic management services. We already know what intermodal means. We already know where intermodal is used. We already know that inland ports are very common when you are using intermodal logistics. So we'll try to see how many ports, how many inland ports do we own, or how many trucks do we own. We'll try to find that as we go deeper into the pre-scene, because now you should start having the picture of intermodal logistics in your mind, because we've already spoken about it. So along with intermodal logistics, we also provide them a service of inventory management. What does this mean? Daistruk provides IT-based services to manage the customer's inventory and enhance the efficient transport. So we are using IT, information-based technology, to manage the customer's inventory, telling them when the dispatch should occur, telling them how much to store in the inventory, telling them when new inventory will be needed. So optimization of vehicle utilization, modeling and decision making with respect to inventory holding, all of these services are being provided by Daistruk, which are IT based, technology based. Clients provide Daistruk with access to relevant data on their enterprise resource planning system. Firstly, we are providing IT based services, so we will need ourselves a good investment in IT equipment, in IT personnel, and in IT data protection, because we have access to this customer data and customers' enterprise resource planning system. So we have all of this, our customers' data. We have all of this, our customers' private, sensitive, internal information. So since we will have access to all of this confidential data, there can be several cyber risks we need to be aware of. We also need to be aware of how we can deal with these attacks. Social engineering, for example, has been explained in our P3 syllabus. How can you prevent social engineering? Same way, any risk, they can tell you that because we have access to this data, we are now facing an issue with social engineering. What does it mean, and how can we protect ourselves from something like this in the future? If you've not revised your if you just not revised your explanation your topic like I've just explained, then you won't be able to start your answer. So important for us to note that P3 on cyber risks and dealing with those cyber risks becomes an important aspect. And because we are speaking about cyber risk, the cyber security system, very important for our business. What is the type of cyber security governance that our company is offering? So cyber security governance systems and its principles will be important here. Your P3 chapters on the same become very, very important here. Digital systems audit will be an important check we need to make at regular intervals. We also need to speak about proper internal controls to prevent any unauthorized access here. So what internal controls can we put in place? What type of risks, cyber risks can occur? How do you deal with those cyber risks? What is your company's cyber security governance system? All of these they are related, right? And this is another top issue. All of this is in your P3 syllabus, so please make sure you are giving importance to the same. Daistruk uses a warehouse management system to track inventory levels and the movement of goods. So we ourselves use a warehouse management system which can be an intangible asset which we have generated. So is this a software which we have internally generated? Then it becomes an intangible asset for my business, right? Because I have developed, or my IT team has spent time developing this software which is going to be invaluable for the business to manage the customer's inventory levels. So warehouse management system is used by us. Now we are using and have access to a variety of integrated systems. Smooth functioning of all to derive meaningful results will be very, very important. Anywhere anything goes wrong in the warehouse management system, the eventual inventory management of that customer will suffer. And if that suffers, the customer is not happy. It might be, a breach of our contract that we have with them. Daistruk can manage elements of a client's supply chain. Clients may issue instructions relating to the movement of goods, or they may ask Daistruk to monitor and manage inventory at different locations. So they can give us the contract to manage one part of the supply chain where they tell us, okay, now you pick it up from here and put it over here. Or they can ask us, because of our inventory management service, because of the way we use our warehouse management service, they can ask us internally that, okay, you monitor and you manage the inventory because you are the expert. Now, obviously, if we are going to provide this service, we are going to charge for it. So our goal must be to convince more customers to choose a better integrated approach. Because once the approach is integrated, once the customer starts using your system, he can get used to your system. He can get really, embedded into your system, which might make it difficult for him to change. For example, a supermarket client might pay Daistruk to replenish shops using goods held under Daistruk's management and at Daistruk's discretion, provided that the shops does not run out of the products and have space for incoming deliveries. So again, it is a service that we offer. Now what I'm seeing over here is through this warehouse management system, through this client access to their ERP system, through this inventory management system that we are offering, we have access to a whole bunch of data. How are we using this data? I'm thinking now, how are we using this data to improve inventory management for my business? If I manage inventory in a better way for my customer, they are going to like my product. If they are going to like my service or the product, which is my inventory management system, they will stick with me for a longer time. So how can I use big data to improve my service, which will eventually benefit the customer? Because I'm thinking that my business has so much access to data, but are we really using it? So we have created a supplementary reading for you. That is something extra that we have created to help you get an idea of how big data can be used, or how data management, data analytics can be used to improve inventory management systems which you are offering. So if we use data, we can improve operational efficiency. So to compete in this competitive market where margins are going to be tight, we spoke about this, the business must be able to offer customers with a very good experience while keeping costs minimum. So Daistruk could provide this information to clients because we have access to all client information. So this could help the client reduce their costs, be more efficient, eventually proving the importance of using a logistic management company. So operational efficiency can be made use of, can be made better use of if we use data. And this operational efficiency, if we understand as Daistruk, we can tell our client that okay, produce this way, so that in inventory there is not extra storage. If we provide that information to them, the client can know that okay, this company is valuable. But it's only possible if we manage data, if we dig into the data, if we analyze the data. It can help us, it can help the client eventually maximize sale and profit margins. So one of the biggest data advantage of having a wealth of data is the opportunity to obtain insights that allow for smarter and more profitable decision making. For example, customer purchasing trends, best and worst performing sales channels, best and worst performing delivery times. All of this information you can gather, tell your customer, and they might be able to effectively use this to change their production or manage their logistics. This use of data will give good customer satisfaction. It will help reduce costs as well. Now all of this complete overview demonstrates how big data is transforming inventory management capabilities, reducing costs, improving efficiency, maximizing sales, increasing customer satisfaction. It is all of these systems that will be important for today's modern IT related businesses. So it is not mentioned that we have invested in this kind of system or anything around the big data aspect. So this could be a huge opportunity for my business, right? So next time when you're speaking about business expansion or opportunities to invest, you can say that our inventory management system or service that we offer is one that clients are using. But we can take this one step forward by investing into big data, by helping our client reduce cost, increase satisfaction, improve operational efficiency, so that we can provide this information to our client, which they can use and which they will benefit from, which they will really, see the benefit of. So this could be an investment for the business which can bring long-term gains, which can bring long-term partnerships and long-term efficiency when working with clients. This could be a huge opportunity for our business. So when I saw this inventory management IT related system, I thought, can big data be used? And logistic companies are using this in inventory management specifically to serve their customers in a better way. That is why we gave you this supplementary reading or supplementary go through. Now we are back to the pre-scene. Now we are back to the pre-scene explanation or information. Shared user storage and handling is the second service. The first service we were offering was inventory management, like we spoke about. So intermodal logistics, with that first service, inventory management. Second service, shared user storage and handling. Daistruk has 35 warehouses spread across Roundland. These are used to store and dispatch goods. So now we have warehouses. No mention of inland ports. Inland ports are very important. We've learned that. So clients are charged on the basis of the storage space occupied and the length of occupancy, with additional charges of inventory handling if they choose for it. So length, and how much space they occupy. Inventory handling includes checking incoming goods, putting them into storage, collecting them, and then processing them for dispatch. All of this is also a charge that is calculated. Now, the warehouses have areas set aside for the storage and handling of different types of goods, including temperature and humidity controlled areas for storing food, and secure areas for storing of high value items. So you have items which have the chance of being spoiled if something goes wrong. Secondly, you have items which have the chance of being stolen because they are high value. Now, do we have any systems where everything is being collated automatically and then systematic decisions are being made? A big data system or data analysis system can be helpful here, your E3 syllabus, but also your risk areas, control areas, internal control coming into the picture here, because you have the risk of your food getting spoiled if not stored properly. You have the risk of your items getting stolen if not stored properly, which will eventually be a loss for the business. So your E3 and your P3 areas coming into the picture here. You can also have the COSO model of internal control. Whenever you speak about internal control and a strong internal control system, the COSO model of internal control and its major principles, the 5 main principles, can be kept in mind when you are writing an internal control answer. Your financial controls, non-financial controls are also important for any business. These are P3 straightaway topics which are important from the case study perspective. Next service we have is called outsourced warehouse management. So Daistruk operates 90 warehouses belonging to clients. They belong to the clients. They are owned by the clients. But we provide labor and all aspects of inventory handling for those warehouses. That's one of our other services. Next, we have shared usage transport. Next service. So Daistruk owns 4,500 articulated tractor units and 6,500 trailers. So 4,500 tractors and 6,500 trailers. All are available for shared usage, which means you can book part of the trailer, the full trailer, a compartment of the trailer, depending on the type of good. That enables goods to be carried as part loads, which reduces your transportation cost. It also makes it possible for trucks to backhaul loads on the return journey, again offsetting running costs for your clients. The shared usage reduces the number of vehicles on the roads, making this more sustainable as well. The first time anything has been mentioned about sustainability over here. So good that we have thought of this and recognized the importance of sustainability. But are we doing something about this? What is our sustainability credentials? What is our sustainability stance? What is our stance on corporate social responsibility? Are we a business that is committing to corporate social responsibility? If not, then we should, because that is the way businesses are proving to be different, proving to giving back to the society, and customers are choosing these kind of ethically correct businesses. So it can be a differentiation strategy for us to focus and market around sustainability. The company's trailer fleet includes 800 tankers as well to carry liquids or powder. 600 of those are available for the carriage of fuel and chemicals. Out of these 800, 600 carry fuel and chemicals. The remainder are for the carriage of foods, including milk and vegetable oils. The company has a further 1,000 smaller vehicles, including rigid trucks and vans, to offer a flexible and efficient service. So we have a large portfolio. 1,000 smaller vehicles, 800 tankers, from that 6,500 trailers, 4,500 articulated trucks, lots of investment, lots of capital assets. We also offer rail transport and intermodal services. Our company offers a variety of services if you're seeing the different nature of services. Daistruk owns 10 railway locomotives that pull loads on Roundland's national rail network. So you're using the national rail network. The Roundland National Rail Network Authority, which will be a government organization, is one that you are dealing with to run these locomotives, to run these trains, because you are using national material or national railway lines. So you'll have to be in dealership with them, you'll have to deal with them, you'll have to have conversations with them. So see, the government aspect is internally built into our business. These operate continuously with each train load carrying the equivalent of up to 80 articulated trucks worth of goods. So you can see one train load is doing a lot in terms of sustainability, in terms of carrying, and in terms of providing and making it cheaper for the customer also. Daistruk owns 2 inland ports in Roundland, in addition to 35 warehouses that it uses for shared storage. So 2 inland ports, 35 warehouses, that's our storage, again, asset. The inland ports are used primarily for the short-term storage of goods that are in shipping containers and for switching shipping containers between trains or between rail and road transport. We know what the inland ports are used for. Now we own all of these assets. It clearly shows the size of our operations, and it is by no means a small company offering 1-2 small services. No. Fully integrated inventory management, warehouse services, you have your own rail transport, intermodal transport, shared usage transport, outsourced warehouse management is also a service that we offer. So it's a wide variety of services that my business is looking to offer here. Now, firstly, I want to see a scenario, or rather a scenario in the exam can come up about managing change, how change is being managed by the business, or how change is something that the business is dealing with. Because today's modern environment is fast, is quickly changing. Next, a clear question on capital raising can be seen here. You also need to keep in mind the decision-making criteria when choosing a particular project. Let's say you are doing anything related to capital expansion or anything related to company expansion or a new project that your company is investing in, that your company is looking at. The SFA analysis, suitability, feasibility, acceptability, has to be considered when choosing to invest in a project or choosing to take on a project, choosing to change, choosing to move direction, choosing to make any strategic direction. The SFA model is important for this exam. Have your knowledge on it. It's in your E3 syllabus and it's a top issue which has chances of coming up. So managing change, your change agents, use of change agents, change management system, part of your E3 syllabus. Your SFA, decision-making system, part of your E3 syllabus. Again, I have identified and made it important for you to understand these areas. Daistruk can manage the import and export of goods by sea using both trucks and trains for deliveries to and collection from Roundland's seaport. So once it's at the seaport, you manage that delivery through trains or trucks, however best it works. The company does not own its own ships, but it works closely with shipping companies to organize cargo for its clients. So we don't have our own ships. We are not fully vertically integrated in terms of owning our own ships. Now, I raise a question here because they told us we are a country that's surrounded by, we're an island nation. Because we are an island nation, the use of ships or ship cargo, sea travel, sea transport will be important. So can this be the next step? Like I said, up until now, your capital expansion scenarios or your SFA decision-making scenarios can be something that can brought up on And the scenario can be that we are now looking to buy our first fleet of 2 ships or 3 ships to expand into the sea transport market, for example. So why? Could this be our next step for the company in its expansion or its further vertical integration? So this could be an issue where we speak about, there could be an issue, in the exam where we speak about now owning ships and hence carrying loads from different countries to Roundland, and hence foreign currency coming into the picture. Let's say the Northland government, for example, the business in Northland contacts you, you have to transfer goods from Northland to Roundland. They'll pay you in N dollars. So foreign currency come into the picture. Because foreign currency is coming into the picture, they can test very easily your currency risk management, so your transaction risk management, internal methods of risk management, leading, lagging, external methods, using currency forwards, using money market hedge, using currency futures. This is very much testable because of this scenario that I created. So it has a chance of coming up in the exam. It has come up in past exams. So you should have the basic knowledge of what currency risk management is. What are economic risks? What are transaction risks? What are translation risks? The different types of transaction risk management. You should know it, but in your own words. They're not going to ask you to solve any sums. But this from your F3 syllabus becomes an important area for us to revise. Also, I'm just thinking of a scenario at the top of my mind. They can tell us that we are now buying XYZ sea travel company, for example. This company owns ships. We want to start our own sea travel or sea transport wing department. What is the best way to go forward? Should it be an acquisition? Should we go for a merger? Should we go for a joint method of expansion? For example, should we look for a joint venture? Should we look for a strategic alliance? So rather than buying, should we look at merger? Should we look at joint venture? Should we look at strategic alliance? So joint methods of expansion and your methods of growth can be important. This is in your E3 syllabus, strategic options chapter. This is very important because these scenarios can come up, and I've told you E3 is the base for this exam. They can test you on these areas. So when I'm pointing these areas out, it's now your job that bare minimum these areas I'm comfortable with. Bare minimum these areas I know and I can answer. Because if you can do that, you're giving yourself a good base to build from, to move ahead from. Daistruk staff can also manage the documentation and other administrative issues associated with custom regulations. So we also look after the documentation and admin issues. The company can make similar arrangements for air cargo as well. A clear political or regulatory risk is to take into account different attitudes of different countries' rules, seeing that cargo value in this industry will be large. And the penalties could also be substantial. With the possibility of expansion being considered, this risk management, management of risk, how a risk can be managed, scenarios around risk planning becomes important here. So the scenario planning topic and the risk topic, both are ones which we consider as a top issue, and hence we have pointed them out for you. So planning for scenarios, how scenario planning works, advantages of scenario planning, side by side, types of risks, risk management framework in an organization. These are important issues. Next, we also deal with specialized loads. Now, Daistruk offers a specialized service for the transportation of oversized loads. You'll see the example image here. Clients in the construction industry often use this to move large items such as wind turbines. Now, remember, we have started with the transport of construction services or construction goods material. So this is something that we have still stuck to, still giving importance to, and can be considered as a good comparative advantage that we have stuck to our roots and obviously grown. These require stabilized equipment and specially trained and licensed drivers. Now, when I look at all of this, I also have now a supplementary reading available for you for the big data in overall logistics management. Over there, I gave you a very short supplementary reading of how big data is being used for inventory management services. But now, for the overall logistics planning, whatever logistics method you are using, whatever transport you are using, there is the use of big data specifically for logistic companies, which has been identified and understood in the real world business as well. And hence, it is very important for me that I bring it up to you, because big data opens up a whole lot of avenues and opportunities for our company if we were to use it. And there is no mention about the same in our pre-scene. Hence, I'm bringing it up to you. Firstly, route optimization. Now, route optimization is one of the hardest nuts to break in logistics. What route to use, what will be easier for me, what will be quicker for me. If you're using data to make route optimization decisions, you're gathering data from all your trucks travel, from all your final delivery travel, you can use it to make decisions to identify, okay, this was a mistake, I can't do this. This was a mistake, I can't do this. Let me combine both of these. This is the best possible opportunity for my business. That's route optimization. Second, it's used for optimization of last mile processes. The final package delivered to customers. How is that being done? For example, DHL, which is one of the large logistic companies, is using big data to optimize last minute delivery. It uses a specifically designed mobile app to connect individuals who want to deliver package on their everyday route. So they can pick it up, and on their everyday route to office, they can deliver it to the customer. It's good for the business. It's good for the customer because they get their parcel quickly, and it's good for the person who is doing this delivery because he gets an extra income. So see how big data this company is using innovatively. Something like this can be done by our company as well. Big data can also help with tracking and transportation of goods. You can track where your goods are. You can collect that information, give it to your customer, so your customer has more knowledge about where his parcel is, where his goods are, when they're going to arrive. As always, like we mentioned, it's going to help with warehouse management, with your inventory management process. It can help with better, improved customer service, like I told you. Data analytics tools, for example, can analyze data collected from surveys and social medias, helping companies gain valuable insights into what the customer wants. This allows them to tailor services to meet the needs of the customer. It can help with predictive maintenance, when your truck needs maintenance, when your inland ports need some kind of maintenance, when your truck needs your regular maintenance. All of that information you can gather. And then by looking at the past information, big data analytics can help you, forecast into the future so that there are no problems when the time arises. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Big data has transformed the nature of logistics in a big way. Logistic companies are aware of the great opportunities that big data can help them unlock and strive to make strides towards data-driven decision making moving forward. So like I said, our company, Daistruk, can use big data to help customers, to predict maintenance, to improve customer service, to improve warehouse management. All of these ideas we are giving you. So if anything related to expansion, big data comes up in the exam, you can write it in your answer with ready points. That is why such a detailed pre-scene analysis is done with you. And that is why a supplementary reading has been provided to you on the same. So big data can be used for your internal warehouse management, and it can be used for the overall business as well in different capacities. But it's a opportunity that many businesses in this industry are looking to take up on. And I gave you the example of DHL. I gave you the example in our industry analysis as well, that many companies are investing in this particular avenue. So Daistruk should not be left behind, because our culture is that we keep moving forward. We keep adding services like we have done in the past to stay relevant. That is why we have been in the market for such a long time. Daistruk has three main categories of clients. So if we look at our category of clients, they can be diversified into three main areas. First being food, then being general merchandise, and then being public sector and industry sector. So public sector means dealing with the government, industry sector means dealing with individual industries, food meaning food, general merchandise meaning your, it could be anything with your supermarket goods, your day-to-day goods, your perishables, everything, non-perishable goods as well. It could be everything related to your customer goods. So Daistruk has three main categories. Some customers do not fit in with a single category. For example, Maddox Supermarket is one of Daistruk's largest clients in terms of revenue. Each of Maddox shops sells clothes, household goods as well as food. So it's falling within the food and the general merchandise category, both. Maddox also sells fuels to motorists and has filling stations at most of its shops. And so Daistruk also provides its tanker services. So see, one client is giving you an opportunity for so many different services. Daistruk's IT systems track client inventory in real time. Clients can access information relating to their inventory and can instruct Daistruk to organize the movements of goods. So we already know that our IT system tracks the inventory in real time. The clients can access this information relating to their inventory and can organize the movements of goods. So having these systems in place, already in place, can be seen as our competitive advantage here. Also, if I'm looking at this particular chart, then why are we looking at clients only in these three segments? Are there other opportunities to look at? Are there other group of clients that we can take on board? Are there other areas we can take on board? For example, healthcare, for example, medicines. This has not been mentioned specifically over here, but it could be something that we look at. And this could be any industry out of these three which has been mentioned here. So it can be a possibility of expansion as the business grows. So just something to keep in mind and just something to, think of. But majorly know that one big customer for Daistruk can give very many different avenues of income, like we can see over here. Now these instructions are sent electronically. For example, Maddox Supermarket may have 5 shipping containers of tinned goods to be collected from the docks, transported to a warehouse and unloaded by a forklift. Daistruk would acknowledge the instruction and would then ensure that the suitable vehicles are assigned to meet the ship. Drivers would be assigned to this task and told which trucks and trailers they should use. So it's a seamless system that will have to be followed. Now these will be the customer segments that we are looking to market to. For example, supermarkets, big businesses. So it will largely be a B2B market for us, a business to business market for us, except for the side where we deal with the last mile delivery. But otherwise, we are dealing with Maddox. We are picking up their goods, putting it into their supermarket. So it's a B2B business. Protection of data will be important. We have all of this data that Maddox is sharing with us. They're telling us what their inventory is. They're telling us what their containers are. They're telling us what inventory levels they want to hold. So all of this data will need protection. Data protection has already been spoken about and is an important area top issue, as I have mentioned before also. So your cybersecurity related management framework, data protection becomes increasingly important because of the nature of this business and how many times they've mentioned IT, they've mentioned data, they've mentioned support. So Daistruk's IT systems also track the services being provided for the clients. These are priced in accordance with the nature of the support being offered. For example, inventory stored on pallets at one of Daistruk's warehouse will be charged at a daily rate per pallet, with additional charges for any movements such as unloading a trailer or container or picking items to make a dispatch. Now, the proper note of each service that has been rendered and a good internal accounting control system will be key, as if you miss out something, then it's a lost revenue for your business. So all of Daistruk's vehicles are fitted with electronic trackers that update the transportation staff on their locations and status at all times. So these electronic trackers are fit, yes, but are we gathering this information? Are we using this information to derive meaningful correlations? We have spoken about this in the big data analysis part, but our business is not doing that as of now. Transportation staff supported by software can manage loads and select the most efficient routes, which can be helpful when part loads must be carried or offloaded. So this software can be seen as our intangible asset. This is the first sign that data is being used by our company. But can we expand this to better our processes? Can we expand this to look at more avenues like the examples that we have given you? For example, Maddox might wish to replenish 6 of its shops with a variety of cleaning materials. Daistruk's warehouse staff would receive electronic instructions telling them which pallets to pick and the order in which they are to be loaded onto the trailer. The truck driver would then drive from shop to shop, following a route to minimize the time and distance and maximize the efficiency. So see, Daistruk's warehouse staff would receive these electronic information, and then they would tell the truck driver the steps to follow. So Daistruk's IT systems can monitor the estimated time of arrival at each location. Delays due to weather or traffic can also be predicted. If a delay cannot be avoided, then the system will send a warning to the client. So this system, technology, or this software that we have developed is our competitive advantage. And it's showing that we are using data. But can we further this in, for example, using the ideas that we have given before? Remember your E3 concept of levels of IT usage. Your IS strategy, IM strategy, IT strategy, those 3 levels of strategy for our business seems to be IS strategy, where the IT part, where the technology part is really integrated in your strategy, in your day-to-day business. This is from your E3 syllabus that I'm speaking about. So revise this topic to make sense of what I have just spoken about. Apart from monitoring delivery times, Daistruk must also ensure that its drivers do not exceed their permitted hours. So regulatory risk. What if there is a accident for any case and your driver was working over the hours that are permitted? Means something went wrong internally. So your risk identification, internal controls will be important. Roundlandian law makes it an offense for a driver to drive more than 9 hours each day. That limit is in the place to reduce the risk of drivers losing concentration and falling asleep while driving. Now to extract from Daistruk's annual report. Analyzing our annual report, they've told us that there are some extracts that we want you to read. What is Daistruk's mission? Daistruk gets things done, which means if you give them something related to logistics, they will go above all the hurdles and make sure that it's done. This is our mission. mission has been explained in the E3 syllabus. The mission is the reason for being of the organization. The mission is the reason for which the organization exists. So Daistruk exists to get things done. Remember, this is important so that we understand the culture of the company, which is to be a problem solver. Get things done efficiently, effectively, get it done. Fine. But this is also giving you good ideas to include when you go to mock question writing. So when you start with writing mock questions, let's say for example you are writing about anything about the company's future steps, you can start your answer by saying our mission is to get things done. So this can be something that Daistruk takes up as a challenge, and then you blah 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 go on and write your answer, finish your answer. But if you were to write your answer this way, the examiner knows that you have understood the pre-scene well. You have understood the company well. You have understood the background of the company well. You know the trajectory of the company. He gives you integration marks, business skill marks, which are unsaid thing and which go hand in hand when you imagine yourself working as a senior finance manager in any business. Because when you're working as a senior finance manager, you will obviously want to be true to the mission, true to the vision of the company. So firstly, we get things done, something to remember to get to know the culture of the company, plus something that you can use when you go to mock question writing. Next, Daistruk's vision. Now the vision is where the company wants to go. What is our future plan? So Daistruk's vision is to have a positive impact on all stakeholders. So good stakeholder management, remember that, through the provision of sustainable supply chain strategies and services. So sustainable, we are committing to the environment. We are committed to the environment. So rest assured, a question on GRI, IR framework is a good possibility in the exam, which will test you in our exam, in our mock questions as well. And it has a high chance of coming up in the exam. It's a top issue because of the information that they've given us. Then what are the values of Daistruk? Daistruk is passionate about providing excellent service. So our culture is about good quality service. Daistruk delivers excellent service at all times. It acts with integrity in dealing with its stakeholders. So always honest in dealing with my stakeholders. And we trust and respect the employees and provide a safe working environment. Remember these values because our business has been in the market for a very, very long time, which naturally means that these values are something that the business has stuck to, something that the business has really invested to. That is why it's been successful over such a long period. So Daistruk's core values are something that we will have to keep in mind and we can use again when we go to mock question writing, saying that we want to deal with integrity with our stakeholders. We cannot do something that's against the ethics. Same way, we are looking to provide excellent service. So it's our culture to strive to provide good service to our clients. When you write something like this, the examiner knows that this person has gone through the pre-scene, has spent time on the pre-scene, and the value will be delivered. So yes, we are doing this detailed pre-scene analysis, but it's needed to understand your company, but it's also needed so that you can write good, integrative, detailed answers when the time comes. Now to Daistruk's board of directors. Now, obviously, it's going to be, you learned everything about the company, but you have to learn about the people who run this company. You have to learn about the people who are leading this company, and that's the board of directors. So, firstly, it's important to know the board of directors because they are important people. They are giving the company direction. They are the people who are running the company. They are the people who are leading this company. So knowing them will help us get to know the mindset of the company as well. Yes. But again, second underlying hidden agenda here. That is the agenda of the entire pre-scene detail that we do, is to help you have good ideas in your mind when you go to mock question writing. Because when, for example, you are speaking to a competence. You're speaking about anything. The competency of a board of director can be used to prove your point. For example, they're saying Mabalemi Maleka is a non-executive chairman. She has had a long and successful career as a politician. So if there is anything related to legality, if there's anything related to laws, rules, regulations, she might be the person who has in-depth knowledge, who has the in-depth background. So you can take her experience. In your answer, you can write, let's take the opinion of our non-executive chairman because she has had this career in politics. She might be able to help us. You can end your answer that way. Or you can start your answer that way by using the competency of your board of director, of the member of your board of director. It tells the examiner you've gone through the pre-scene. It tells the examiner you know your company, you're part of that company. And that is what adds value. So knowing the board of directors, yes, is important because they lead the business. But secondly, it's important to know their competency. And then you can use it when the time comes and when you go to mock question writing, as that will add integrative marks. So Mabalemi had a long and successful career as a politician, including spending 2 years as a junior minister for railways. So obviously she will know all the rules, laws, regulations relating to railway in Roundland. That can be a great comparative advantage for my business, that I have such a valuable wealth of experience on my board. So anything related to railway transport or politics or rules or regulations, you can use her name in your answer, obviously. In addition to her position on Daistruk's board, she is a visiting professor of economics at Central City University. She joined the board in 2020. So her expertise in law will come in handy. Also, her knowledge about the external market will be important, as she has an economics background. She'll know the inflation situation, the economic situation, because she knows, she has that experience. Also, we need to keep a lookout at her time commitment. Daistruk is a big company. As the chairman, she is expected to run the board and commit time for the same. The role of a chairman, the role of a CEO has been explained in our P3 syllabus, so that is important to know. The chairman runs the board of directors, convenes the meetings for the board of directors. So could we see a scenario where we appoint a new chairman because she does not have time enough to give to the Daistruk running or the board running? Could there be a scenario where Mabalemi is now leaving and we have to appoint a new executive chairman? What are the rules, regulations that we should follow? That can be a scenario that comes up. Next, we have Henrik Gerding. He's the CEO. So Henrik has a degree in computer science. He worked in software development with a major IT company before joining Daistruk as a senior manager in the company's data center. So he went to the data center and then slowly worked his way forward. He joined Daistruk's board as the Chief Information Officer. So he joined as the CIO. He was promoted to CEO in 2020. So Chief Information Officer will obviously deal with all the data related stuff in the organization, the IT systems related stuff in the organization. Then he was promoted to CEO. So he has worked his way from a Chief Information Officer to the CEO. Knows all the business details, and this is important for a CEO who is responsible for company operations. He has also worked as a CIO, which means he has knowledge about the technicalities of our company's IT systems, and he knows that IT is important for our business. He can be a big asset for our business, and anything related to computer science, IT, software development, you can use his name as a recommendation. It will add integration marks. Next, we have Doreen Samput, who is the Chief Operating Officer, COO. Doreen holds a heavy goods vehicle license. She worked in a food warehouse after leaving school, during which time she learned to operate forklifts. She went on to learn how to drive articulated trucks. So she has this license, and she joined Daistruk in 2002 as a trainee warehouse manager. You can see she's been with the business for 21 years. She has worked, she knows, she has that license. She learned to operate forklifts. She can drive an articulated truck, and she is the operations officer. She completed a part-time MBA degree, after which she was promoted to various management roles within the company. She joined the board of directors in 2017. She's worked her way right from the bottom, so knows how every single aspect, every single operations aspect in the business is run. So arguably one of the most important parts of the business, because our delivery and operations is what defines our business. Having that person who's worked from the bottom, who knows all the details, will be a big plus for us. Next, we have Rasim Hamid, who is the Chief Finance Officer, who your dealings are going to be with majorly. Rasim is a qualified accountant. He spent much of his career working for a leading supermarket company, during which time he completed his professional training and worked his way up to a senior management role in the finance function. He joined Daistruk in 2015 as a chief accountant and was promoted to CFO in 2019. So he has worked for another leading supermarket company. So he knows how the supermarket or consumer fast goods industry works. He could help us manage our relation with Murdoch supermarkets because he knows the business. He has worked for a leading supermarket company, so he knows what this company wants, and Murdoch's is a major revenue generating client for us. So Rasim's ideas and knowledge about supermarkets can prove to be very important in dealing with our stakeholder Murdoch. His presence and experience in a leading role could prove to be important. Again, he is an expert in his area. He has that background of an accountant, and it's very important for our business. Next, we have Andrea Lopez, Chief Information Officer, CIO. So our CEO right now was the CIO before. CIO got promoted to CEO, and now we have a new CIO who is Andrea Lopez. So Andrea studied data science at university. After graduating, she worked in logistics management with a variety of manufacturing companies. She joined Daistruk in 2017 as an IT manager, and she was promoted to this position when Henrik Gerding became the when he became the CEO. Andrea became the CIO. So the presence of a CIO ensures the importance of data, which has been understood by this business. And we have another expert handling this area, which is a competitive advantage for my business. The role of a CIO, the importance of a CIO has been spoken about in the P3 syllabus, so get that cleared. Next, we have Max Foster, who is the HR director. Now, very good to see HR having a representation on the board, because in our business, HR is key. We have more than 29,000 employees, where we had truck drivers plus people who are working with us. So hiring the right people for any business will be very, very important. And good to see HR has a representation on the board, because if you don't hire the right drivers, the right people working in operations, nothing is going to work smoothly. So HR is important, especially because we have so many employees, and continuous change of employees at the lower level will occur. Now we have Professor Hongyu Lee. She is the Senior Independent Director. Now Hongyu had a successful career in academia, latterly as a Professor of Management Science at Capital City University. Now, career in academia means it's her background and expertise in the subject of problem solving and decision making. Academia is problem solving and decision making. So this will be invaluable for us. She joined Daistruk's board as an independent director in 2019, combining that with convening the management committee of Capital City Hospital. So she's also working two roles. Any technical matters you can discuss with her, because she has that expert in problem solving. She has that expertise in decision making. She's a non-executive director, but senior independent non-executive director. Next, we have Khalid Abbas, independent non-executive director. Khalid has an engineering background. He spent most of his career working for a leading vehicle manufacturer. He retired in 2018. Since then, he has combined his role on Daistruk's board with convening a professional engineering body's outreach program at a school. So we have one non-executive director again, which is focusing on, who has background rather of a leading vehicle manufacturer. So any clients that we have in the automobile industry, he'll know what is important for them. He'll be able to suggest us in a better way. Next, we have Nathalie Brulett. Again, independent non-executive director. Nathalie worked for Roundland's Department of Transport. Again, public. She worked for a public organization, Department of Transport. She has reached a senior position by the time of her retirement. She was involved in drafting legislation on a variety of issues, including revisions to motorway speed limits, updating tests required for driving license, and she retired from government service in 2021. Her background, government role, understanding could be invaluable for our business because she has been part of drafting legislations. She knows, she's worked for a public department in the Department of Transport. She'll have her connections. She knows how it functions, how we can stay safe from all these, not following any rule. She'll know all of the rules and regulations, in short. But it also raises ethical issues. There could be an ethical issue where unknowingly we use her advice and it comes out to be, or it seems like we have used some inside information, or we have gained information not fairly through her. It could be an potential ethics situation which can come up because of the nature of the chairman, because of the nature of Nathalie and their experience which they have had before they joined Daistruk. So an ethics related issue can come up. Ethics is the top issue. Also, one very common issue that's coming up nowadays in the exam is related to fraud. Fraud risk indicators, fraud risk management strategy, types of frauds. This is often coming up when dealing with directors, or when dealing with employees, or when dealing with management level employees. This is a topic that is coming up in exams where a fraud has occurred. So they'll tell you, how can we pick up a fraud next time? So fraud risk indicators need to be worked on. How can we have a better fraud management system? This is there in your P3 syllabus. So make sure you revise these areas that I'm pointing out for you. These are the board of directors. I will obviously not ask you to remember each director, all details, but you can remember what each director is good at in one line so that you can use it when the time comes. And the pre-scene is something that you are going through 5, 10, 15 times before the date of the exam. So this is something that will automatically sit in your mind if you have given it time, if you go through it carefully, if you invest time in it right now. So go through the pre-scene multiple times, listen to my explanations, and I'm sure stuff will start to fit in your mind and it will make more sense to you, and you'll automatically start remembering it because you've gone through it simply multiple times. Next, they're giving us our structure of decision making or the responsibilities. At the top, we have Henrik Gerding, who is the CEO. Under him, Doreen deals with everything related to operation. So this includes transportation, liaison with clients, and warehouse operations, because everything is part of operating, right? Rasim deals with everything related to finance, financial reporting, management accounting, treasury. Andrea deals with everything related to IT. So she is information officer. So IT operations, IT security, software maintenance. Max deals with human resource, so recruitment, staff retention, health and safety. Very clearly demarcated. And it's a very clear functional structure that we have in place, where everybody is looking at their own department, and at the top the decision is made by the board of directors, who is led by Henrik Gerding. So seeing the images above, we can say that a functional structure is in place where activities are grouped together. This is generally recommended for small sized organizations who work in a stable environment and do not offer many different kinds of products, services. Now we are working in a dynamic, fast environment, and we have many different kinds of services which we are now going to add to if we add big data and other logistics services. So is the functional structure something that we can stick with for a longer term? Question mark. What if we expand into another country? What if we expand into, for example, Northland or any part of Asia or any Southland, whatever country, they can give an example that we have moved to this country. So can functional structure still be used, or should we go with a divisional structure based on geography? Different divisions, Roundland becomes one division, Southland becomes one division, Asia becomes one division, for example. It could be the step forward for a company that is growing. So in the future, we could be asked to move on to a divisional or a matrix structure. More realistic is a matrix structure looking at our company, but it's something that I want us to have discussed, something that I want us to have noticed over here. After that, they are telling us that we have some committees as well. So Mabalemi is part of the Audit, Risk and Nominations Committee. Professor Hongyu is part of Audit, Remuneration and Nomination. Khalid is part of Audit, Risk and Remuneration. Nathalie is part of Risk, Remuneration and Nomination. So every committee, firstly, all 4 committees which are recommended by the Corporate Governance Code in your P3 syllabus are present. Well and good. Every committee has 3 representatives. So what am I seeing overall over here? Firstly, after looking at all of the directors, we can see that all of them so far are highly qualified, experienced, and they fully merit their position and their appointments. They're all educated. Some of the directors are relatively new, but they are well educated and experienced. If we look at the structure of the organization, we can see that the corporate governance code is not being honored in every aspect. Firstly, the board should be made of equal number of executive directors and non-executive directors. If you see non-executive directors, we have 3 plus 1. 3 plus 1, which is the chairman. If you see the executive directors, we have 4 plus 1, which is the CEO. So there is an imbalance in the board of director composition. They say that we should have equal number of executives, equal number of non-executives in the corporate governance code because it's good practice, firstly. Secondly, it's something which will not allow the executive directors to give full power on, and something that the executive directors by themselves cannot and should not be in complete control over the organization. Non-executive directors should be present in equal numbers to make sure there is a challenge, or make sure there is a, if there is a disparity, there are votes in equal number for which then a decision is taken. So firstly, one statement by the corporate governance code is that there should be equal number of executives and non-executives, which our company currently is in imbalance of. On the other hand, roles of CEO and chairman are separate, so that's a good thing. So corporate governance code is being met in this aspect. There is a presence of the Audit, Remuneration, Nomination and Risk Committee. So corporate governance code is again being met. These committees should be present. Okay. But all the committees for a big company should have 3 independent non-executive directors part of them. In addition, the chairman can be part of this committee, but he cannot chair the committee, cannot be leader of that committee. We currently have, if you look at our current situation, you'll see that 2 non-executive directors, 2 independent non-executive directors are part of the committee. If let's take example Audit Committee. If you look at Audit Committee, 2 independent non-executive directors are part of the committee, and the chairman is part of the committee as well. The recommendation is 3 independent non-executive directors to be part of the committee. The chairman can be part, but he cannot be chair of that committee. Also, something interesting is for every director, they've said non-executive, non-executive, and independent, independent, independent. But for Mabalemi, nowhere have they said independent, non-executive chairman. So should I assume that it's independent? Or should I question mark that her independence is under question? Or maybe she is not an independent non-executive director? Then it's an issue for my company because non-executive directors should be independent. So something that has a question mark because there is no clarity provided in the pre-scene. So the independence of Mabalemi is under question. Secondly, if you look at the composition of the committees, you will see that Mabalemi is part of 3 committees where we should have 3 independent non-executive directors. The chairman can be part but cannot chair that committee. So maybe the appointment of 1 extra independent non-executive director to the board and then making him part of these committees to fulfill this requirement will be looked at in the future. So we currently have 2 independent NEDs as part of our committee. As we are a big company, appointing another NED who would be part of the committees could be the way forward. So Mabalemi is only not part of the remuneration committee. So there are 3 independent directors. Good enough. Then the chairman can be part but cannot chair. But Mabalemi is part of audit, risk and nomination, which means there are only 2 independent non-executive directors on the audit committee, 2 independent on the risk committee, 2 independent on the nominations committee, where they should ideally be 3. And then the chairman can be part but cannot chair that committee. So there are a little bit of intricacies that we will have to get clear here, which you will also have clear if you've gone through the P3 syllabus of corporate governance, which I have again gone through for you over here. So make sure that you've gone through this carefully. Make sure that this is something that you understand, because this is a top issue. This is corporate governance, is often tested in the exam, and I want you to be clear with it. They're telling us that Daistruk's chief internal auditor reports to the convener of the audit committee. So we know that the audit committee comes at the top. Under that, you'll have the chief internal auditor who will report to the audit committee. Under the chief internal auditor, there will be the internal controls manager, and there will be different internal controls that are set. So this is good standard practice. The rules of the different committees is important to understand, which is part of our P3 syllabus. What is the role of audit committee? What is the role of remunerations committee, risk committee, nominations committee? You should be clear of this. This is there clearly in your P3 syllabus as well. After that, they've given us Daistruk's principal risks. So as part of the pre-scene itself, they have identified some risks of my company, Daistruk. Some risks. Let's go through the ones which they have identified. Now, remember at the beginning of the pre-scene, I told you make a list of all the risks which my company can face. If you've made a list, some of the risks in your list will automatically be covered over here. But there will be some which are not covered over here, and you've still made a list of those which will give value to your preparation because you've done an extensive risk analysis for our company. First risk they identify is concerns about the consumption of fossil fuels. The Roundlandian government is aiming for the country to achieve net zero carbon emissions. So Daistruk has been proactive in setting targets for reductions in its carbon emissions. The company has actively pursued the use of new technologies to reduce emissions. Remember, sustainability is a big question mark. I have already spoken about your CSR stance, and over here they're telling you that you have made an investment in new technologies to reduce emissions. Okay. Second, Daistruk's activities create significant health and safety risks. Handling goods, operating them, there's a risk of injury always, right? We've also spoken about this. Regulatory risks, safety risk, we spoke about this. What are we doing? All staff receive health and safety training. Okay. Daistruk has detailed procedures in place to minimize the risk of injury and damage to property. And detailed records are maintained about all events that have caused injury so that in the future that same mistake doesn't occur. Okay. Third, clients depend on Daistruk for the prompt and reliable movement of goods. If you don't meet the schedules, it can cause damage to business relationships. We've spoken about this, maintaining your stakeholder relationships. For this, a comprehensive IT system to manage the movement of goods is important, which we have. We have a software. Daistruk relies heavily on its IT systems. The company's IT systems are potentially vulnerable to attack. So I've spoken about this very clearly with you. Vulnerability to attack, your IT systems risk, your data risks. Daistruk's IT managers are vigilant. The threat of emerging vulnerabilities is evaluated, seeking advice and conducting penetration tests, which is part of your P3 syllabus. It has been identified here also. So IT risk, big issue. And Daistruk relies heavily on its ability to recruit and retain employees. I told you about HR issues. The board pays close attention to rates of staff turnover and responds to any threats. Daistruk ensures the staff pay is competitive. So you are looking at benchmarking. Benchmarking is part of our E3 syllabus. Benchmarking is spoken about in the E3 syllabus. So you need to benchmark. You need to know about the outside environment. Then you can, provide your employees with the best possible package, with the best possible recognition to see what the others are doing and do more than them. Now, when we are speaking about this and when we are speaking about the different, let's say departments that our organization has, something that's come to my mind is that departmental performance will also be something that we will have to look at. Now, the departmental performance can be analyzed, can be looked at using different performance measures. So this brings in the topic of your forecasting, foresight, balance scorecard, examining performance of a division. What did the division do in terms of stakeholder value adding, triple bottom line. Use the balance scorecard to analyze the performance of this particular department. They can ask you in the exam. So your topics of performance of a division, examining the performance of a division, balance scorecard topic, forecasting topic, foresight topic, which is in your E3 syllabus, become important here because you will want to know which department is doing well, which department needs improvement. So the principal risks have been stated here. Now my question is, are these the only risks that we are facing? Why are we limiting our risk analysis? In today's environment, risk analysis and risk management is very important because of the constant changing nature of the environment. We have other risks: litigation risk, reputational risk, government risk, personal data risk, financial risk. All of these risks are possible for my business, and your list that you have made will come in handy over here. Now, a discussion on risks brings in the topic of the COSO ERM framework, Enterprise Risk Management. It has been taught in your P3 syllabus in the beginning chapters. It also brings in the discussion of COSO model of internal controls, because when you talk about risk, you have to talk about controls. These theories could come in very handy when you're dealing with a risk management framework question or an internal control management framework question. You can use these theories to start your answer, to start your explanations. And these are in your P3 syllabus very, very well explained. This brings me to the end of part 2 of our pre-scene analysis. Very clearly, go through part 1, go through part 2. Make sure you are comfortable with this, and then begin with part 3, which is the financial analysis, of our company. Then begin with that after you are comfortable with this much. It has a lot of information. All you have to do is like a movie, watch it a couple times, watch it 3 times, so you get used to my voice, used to my explanations, and the topics which I have mentioned Those are the bare minimum topics that you cannot make a mistake on, that you must not make an error or mistake on in any case. So please take note of the same. This is part 2, which we have completed.